What is up, crew? Welcome back to Seek the Edge podcast with me, Kelsey Lensman, where our goal, our mission is to challenge you outside of your comfort zone so you can tap into the God-given potential inside. And as you step out of your comfort zone, you're going to be needing to be led, and you need to lead pretty strongly. And I have someone on this podcast that I'm excited. It has been a whirlwind to try to get him here on my end, but I'm excited to dig in, Trav, because this is something that I know I'm going to gain a lot of information from. But I know you're incredibly passionate about this, but not just passionate. You've helped so many people become better leaders and better people as a result. So before I let you talk here, I have to share with you your intro that you gave me, because usually I'll spin it in. And when I read it, this was perfect. It made me laugh, and it was great. So Travis Dalrymple is a leadership advisor, author of How to Suck as a Leader, and the co-founder of the Leadership Lab, a program that helps small business owners and team leaders stop micromanaging people and start actually leading them. This was my favorite part.
Okay.
From placing third on America's Got Talent to leading high-performing teams in the business world, Travis blends entertainment, strategy, and real-life leadership lessons to help people become the kind of leader others actually want to follow, just tolerate. Love it. And then last but not least, he's coached over 1,000 entrepreneurs and small business owners, fixed broken cultures, and taught teams how to lead themselves first without the corporate jargon or BS. When he's not coaching or speaking, you'll find him golfing, love it, hanging out with his family, or turning hard truths into Instagram reels.
That's right.
Trav, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I hope you enjoy. You don't think you could have done that? You could have wrote that.
When I read this, I'm like, I can't top this. From pulling in the book to America's Got Talent, I'm just going to let this rip because that was great.
Did you know the America's Got Talent piece?
You shared it with me, which I want to start here for a second. Talking about leadership.
Yeah.
What is the biggest leadership you've learned from America's Got Talent?
How to not run a business.
I was not expecting that. And obviously we don't just throw shade, right?
Sure.
But what would you have done differently?
I would say, well, ironically, nothing, because if we didn't build the business the way that we did when we were on the show and after the show, because there was 13 owners, including myself. So if you ever want to own a business, don't do it with 12 other guys. Horrible setup with equal say. Doesn't really work very well. But ironically, I would not change anything because I made all those mistakes really, really early in my career. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to not make those mistakes, because that's the only way you're going to learn and change and adapt. So I wouldn't change any of it. It was some of the best life experiences I'll ever have, without a doubt.
And you can say that you're on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, and I
can't say that.
No, you can't. Yeah, that was 2010, and we were on and off the show, because it takes a while to actually get through the rounds, for maybe 6 or 7 months. And then when the show was over, we placed third. And then as soon as we got off stage, they invite you on America's Got Live, or America's Got Talent live tour.
Okay.
So then we toured the country on tour buses for maybe 2.5 months.
I didn't.
And with the top 10 acts of that season. And that's exactly what you think it is. It's just a ridiculous time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my! What did you do? I can't remember what you did for that.
It's really hard to describe.
Okay.
But it's a blacklight illusion dance magic thing.
And if I remember, you're on YouTube, so I can link the YouTube video.
Yeah, it's got millions of hits. It's called Fighting Gravity. It'll pop right up. It's hilarious. I mean, it's not funny. It's funny for me.
Yeah.
Watching it isn't funny, but it's still awesome.
Wow. So what you shared in there.
Yeah.
I wanted to pull this out because you said it so quickly and people will just pass by it. And to also give the people that are listening to a frame, before I share that, is what would you define as leadership?
I think there's so many different ways to define it, and I've struggled with my own definition to get hone in on it a lot. But for me, it's just helping someone else realize their own potential.
Oh, I did not know you were going to go there. I like that definition.
And that can be family, friends, coworkers, business, work, whatever. The context is kind of irrelevant. Mm-hmm. If you're helping someone become a better version of themselves, the next version of themselves, then I look at that as leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is why I wanted to ask you that. because I think many people sink leadership into either a title or a position, but they also don't realize they're leading themselves. And I think that can be just as, if my opinion, sometimes not more important than even how you interact with. But you said something in that first part is you said, I wouldn't have changed anything because all the lessons that I learned, they got you to where you're at today, and you learned them early on in your career. And I know even myself back in the day, even to now sometimes extent, you can be afraid to go through those hard lessons, or afraid to fail, or afraid to kind of come up against those stumbling blocks. And if I'm hearing you correctly, that has taught you so much.
Oh, search them out.
So how have you developed that mindset, or have you were you always just like that?
The mindset of kind of fail first almost.
Yeah. And having that perspective of, man, I'm very grateful for that.
I think I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but I do know when I got to college, when Fighting Gravity, our first business, started, I might have been 20. And I already knew when I was in college, when all of that happened, that I did not care for college and that I wasn't going to have some normal job or normal life. Like, it was just going to be different because I found that I thought very differently than other folks. So I decided, well, I'm just going to try things until I figure stuff out, which requires just a ton of failing. And if you're not failing, in my opinion, you're not really growing. You're not changing. You're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So I just constantly sought to put myself in situations where it's like, this is kind of terrifying. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm probably going the right direction.
Yeah. Here, say that one last part again.
Which part? There's a ton of stuff in there.
That one last part. You said, if I'm not constantly stepping out of my comfort zone, or if I'm not constantly stepping into, I can't remember your exact word, then I'm not going the right direction.
Yeah, if I'm not constantly failing, if I'm not pushing myself outside my comfort zone, if I'm not making myself, if I'm not heading towards fear in some capacity, I'm not growing. And for most people, they kind of view it as the exact opposite, which keeps them in their safe space, in their comfort zone, in their bubble, when really, as cliche as it is, life is very much outside of the bubble.
Why is that detriment? Why is it a detriment to somebody to not pursue that?
I would argue that it might not be.
Okay.
So it really just depends on what you want out of your life, right? If you love your life and the things that you do, I think to backtrack a little bit, I think there's a grow or die kind of mentality with the internet these days, where if you're not constantly growing, then you're doing something wrong. And I really don't agree with that. I think growth comes in waves. There's time for growth. There's time for stability. There's time for regression almost, where you're like, oh man, I really have to take a lot of steps backwards here because of whatever happened in my life. So I don't think people should always be growing, which might sound kind of counterintuitive. And I don't think everyone always wants to grow. And I don't think that's actually a problem. Because if you don't want to do that, it's your life. Live it. Do what you want to do. I don't care. So I don't think everyone needs to be growing all the time.
Yeah, which is very contradictory. And I know people listening to this are probably like, Kelsey's the complete opposite of that. But I'm going to challenge those people that think that. Because, yes, I lead with that message of step out of your comfort zone. Because, in my opinion, I take it from my story where it's almost like I had these glasses on in my life of I thought that this was how good it was just going to get. So I had to have to settle for it. And I didn't realize there was more fulfillment or more impact or a different life that I could live. Because I just thought this was, well, I guess this is all it is. And it was almost like I challenge people to kind of open their eyes to what's possible, because I don't think many people even think about what they actually want or align themselves with it.
Well, I think what also happens is, for folks like you and me, we've accidentally placed ourselves in very unique situations where we meet these people that are so far outside of people we've ever spoken to. You're like, wait, this exists? This is a thing? I remember when we were on the show and we got exposed to the entertainment world and Hollywood and LA and producers and TV shows, and then you start talking to some of those people that work on those shows and the things that they do and the people that they meet, you're like, wait a minute, there's no way I would have ever been exposed to this, but now that I have been, I cannot return to a previous way of thinking.
That's very true.
Right? I can't. True. It's like it's like Santa Claus, right? You believe in Santa Claus at some point. Sorry if you don't. And then one day you're like, oh wait, he's not real.
Yeah.
Right? You can't convince yourself to start believing in Santa again. Like you just wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah. And I think that happened. I talk about that in the book a little bit too, like that threshold theory of once you unlock a new way of thinking, it is impossible for you to actually return. So I think that's where true growth happens, when people hit those thresholds. So for me, one of the first ones that I truly remember was being exposed to the television world, and then it's kind of trickled from there.
Interesting. So let's dive into this book.
Okay.
Because this is where I want the majority of today to go, because it's too good to not go there. So before we dive into the contents within it, what was the inspiration for it? What was the problem that you're like, I need to write a book because ...
Yep. This is actually my second book, technically speaking, because the first one I never published.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Most people don't. So I used to work at a CrossFit gym. I was the head coach and the gym manager there. And I wanted to write a book called 0 to 60, meaning how to manage a CrossFit class really effectively. Okay. Because when I would go to other gyms, I just found that they're pretty terrible at it. And I was really good at it. So I wrote that whole book and then never published it. Never got an editor. It just kind of sat there, and I was like, maybe I'll come back to this one day. And that was maybe a decade ago at this point. Wow. So I think the urge has always been there to be like, I really just want to do this because it would be really fun to say, you know what I did in my life? I wrote a book, and that's really cool. So I gave a presentation at a business conference maybe in 2022, I believe it was. And I was presenting to a bunch of online fitness business owners. And the topic of the conversation was leadership. And I was trying to figure out how to present that topic without it being really boring, because I don't like boring things, but I like to keep things very, very simple. So I'm like, what can I do just to make this more fun for me to present on it? So I just started thinking about all the ways that those business owners sucked at being a leader. And I just kind of wrote them all down. I was like, yeah, that person really sucks at this, and this person sucks at that. Like, how am I going to talk about these things? So I just decided to put all of that in like a sarcastic setup. So I would present one sarcastic idea, like a leader saying something obnoxiously stupid that no one would ever do. And then I would say, and some of you do this. And then I would just present what I think they should do instead. So when I did that, I maybe got 20 or 30 ideas written down before I did the presentation. I went, did it. It was great. And I was like, man, maybe this is the book. Maybe I could just do this. So I had that thought, and the next day I just started writing it, and I wrote the first draft of this book in about a month.
So, it's fast. For people writing book, that's very fast.
So because once I start something like that, I can't really stop. I have to finish it. It's like a weird tick. I don't know. I just can't. So the first draft of this book was finished maybe like February 2023 or something like that. I can't remember exactly when it was. And then the next 2.5 years was refining and editing.
Wow. Yeah. So it came from problems that you saw.
Correct. And
what was your biggest lesson or takeaway while writing the book first?
About like writing a book, or just the whole shebang?
Yeah, as you as a person, what was the biggest, I didn't realize this lesson, or...
Yeah. I mean, the first lesson was that writing a book is a pain in the ass. Right? So it's a nightmare. I do not recommend it. Unless you really want to do it, then fine. The biggest leadership lesson that that came about, I think it was that leadership is way more simplistic than I think most people make it. And every time I would go to write something down, it would be, man, I could really talk about this for a while. And then the way in which I wrote things, I went, wow, actually, it doesn't have to be more complicated than this. Like, this idea and this concept can be broken down into such a small amount of text that people will get it, and they can actually go do something about it, and they can take action. Instead of reading, a 400-page jargon-filled snooze fest nonfiction book about theory and this, and when I sold my company, it's like nobody gives a shit about all that stuff. Like, they want to know, give me an example. Give me what to do. Right. Because the problem that I was kind of trying to solve with all of this was, I don't think leadership tools and skills are readily available and easily accessible. So part of my mission is to quite literally fix that with this book and then something else that I'm working on.
Oh, you're just going to dangle that out there
sprinkle.
for me.
Yeah.
In the third book. Hopefully we'll release that third book. That's good. So what I'm hearing is obviously you've encountered a lot of these people that have had leadership challenges. For those that are listening, what are some of those symptoms that they've, meaning, is it frustration? Is it misalignment? Like what were those people feeling that the people listening could be like, oh, actually, yeah, that might kind of be me.
To know if they have a leadership problem?
Yeah.
It's just frustration amongst you and other people.
Yeah.
It's like I'm saying these things and these people aren't hearing me. Or I'm trying to make my voice known, but no one's understanding what I'm saying. Or I have a team and I'm telling them to do these things, but they're not really bought in and they seem mad at me and like what's going on. Anything related to like you either trying to kind of lead up or lead down, so to speak, those normal people interactions. If you feel weird about those, whether it's resentment, discomfort, you don't feel safe bringing things up, any and all of those things, there's a leadership constraint there without a doubt.
With those constraints, obviously there's different constraints within that.
Sure.
But what has been probably the number one lesson that's within that book, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you the whole book because I know people. I'm going to really encourage people to go get it, and we'll put the links everywhere.
Yeah.
But
also, the book is called "How to Suck as a Leader."
Yeah.
I don't know if we said that.
We said at the beginning.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
There's a couple number one problems that I've seen that all are very related to each other. So the first couple that come to mind, the first one is a leader's ability to actively listen when people are talking. I've just found with a lot of folks that I've worked with, a lot of leaders that I've seen, their ability to actually listen is horrible because they're just thinking about what they're about to say instead of focusing on what the other person is not only saying, but the point they're trying to make. Like you should be listening so intently to someone that you're seeking to understand them, not just hear the words that they're saying. Those are two completely different things because we all know someone can say one thing but mean another. Right? It's like when you get a text and you're like, why is this person mad at me? But then they're like, I wasn't mad at you, man. You just read it in the wrong voice. Right? So tonality and what's going on, their facial expressions, their body language, like all that stuff is just so important when it comes to listening, and people don't really realize that. So there's listening, and then on the back half of that is reacting. Right? So even if you listen really, really well, if you have no emotional control, and you just tend to lash out at people, or even if you do listen really, really, really well, but then you just say whatever you were going to say anyway without trying to repeat back what they said or ask clarifying questions or learn more about what the point they're trying to get across. Like that's how high-level leaders actually approach people, and that's what makes people feel seen and heard, obviously, because you're listening to them and you're understanding them. So those two things alone in combination with each other, the ability to listen and the ability to reflect back what they say without you losing your shit or, freaking out or getting mad or defensive, like that emotional control aspect. I think that is one of the most powerful things that anyone can do when they're interacting with somebody else in a leadership capacity. And that is the most common mistake I see with people and their teams.
So what's the solution?
You need to chill out. One of my mentors framed it really well. He said, the goal should be to listen until you no longer exist. So removing yourself entirely from that conversation almost because you're just so focused on what the other person is saying. So tactfully, or tactically in that situation, when someone's finished speaking, you just need to say either nothing for a moment. So take a pause, take a breath, and then ask a follow-up question. Again, overly simplistic. It couldn't be more simple if we tried, but that's the beauty of it because now you can actually execute on it. So the solution is simply to pause and go, well, you said this. Could you tell me what you meant by that? You said this. It sounds like you're saying X, Y, and Z. Like, did I hear you right? And then if they did, they will say, yep, you heard me right. Or if you repeat something back to somebody and you didn't understand it properly, they will correct you, which is fantastic because otherwise you would have never known.
Yeah. This reminds me of, I read a book in college called Crucial Conversations.
Okay.
And what you did there was you modeled that book was incredibly helpful for me back then, because for me, I didn't even know what words to say sometimes in certain conversations. And you just said there, hey, can you clarify this for me? Is that correct? And just by you modeling that, I know for some people listening, like, that's what I needed to hear is, how do I even bring this stuff up? Or, yes, I know that's a challenge for me, but where do I go with that? Or how do I communicate that? So I'd imagine that that's a lot in the book, too.
So there's a whole chapter on how to ask better questions in the book, but there's a couple different ways you can approach it. The simplest one is to, like, all of these involve a pause, so you're always going to pause when someone's done speaking. But then just repeat back a couple words that they say and say, tell me more about that. That is the simplest one because it doesn't require you to do anything. You just go, oh, you said blah, blah, blah. Can you tell me more about that? And then they will. And that's going to show that you're listening and that you're seeking to understand. That's the, like, if you take one thing away from this podcast, just tell me more about that is a really, really powerful framework you can use in literally any conversation. And you could use that back to back to back to back. You could do that 10 to 15 times in a conversation, and that person will never notice. They will never get annoyed. They will never tell you to stop telling you to tell them more about it. Like, it'll go over their head because that will be the most understood they've ever been in their entire lives.
That's a very true statement, Trav. Very true statement.
So there's that. And then the other method is to simply repeat back the last couple words that they say. This is something that I learned from multiple mentors I've had over my life. And then Chris Voss wrote a really good book called Never Split the Difference. And this is one of, like, his main features, and it works so well. But just repeating back the last handful of words somebody said, almost in like a question tonality, and they will just continue to expand. So those two things in tandem can open up pretty much any conversation for anyone if you feel like, as a listener, you're not very good.
It's interesting. So you said it a few moments ago about how when they're confronted with a situation, they either get really reactionary or they just don't know how to navigate that situation. And so I've seen in my own life is sometimes the challenges that I come up against from a leadership position, whether it be, internal team, clients, my own just relationships that I have in my life, that sometimes it can be a mirror towards things that are still sore internally for me. And so have you found that to be a challenge for individuals, or also an opportunity to look inward of, well, why does that actually bother me?
Yeah, I have a couple different thoughts on this, some of which are not very popular.
That's okay. I'm open for the I love the not popular ones. This is interesting.
So the first one, which is not popular nor unpopular, is yes, to answer your question. Okay. That is a great opportunity to reflect back at yourself and go, what's going on with me that I just had that kind of reaction? Yeah. Because I think people are, especially when it comes to business, because I come from like a business entrepreneurial world, that if you want to level up your business, if you want to make more money, if you more or less want to do anything in life, you need to level up either your character traits, your skills, or your beliefs. And for me, all of those things kind of mean the same exact thing. But if you're at a glass ceiling, maybe with something that you believe, or one of your skills like listening, or your character trait, maybe you're an asshole, who knows, whatever. But if you're at that glass ceiling, you can't get to the next level of life until you break through that glass ceiling. So that glass ceiling might be how you tend to overreact in certain conversations, or you blow up when someone says whatever to you, right? It's going to be different for everyone. But if you want to get to the next point in your life, you need to figure out how to break through that. So the unpopular opinion is, do you need to figure out the root cause of it? Do you need to figure out the why? And I've gone back and forth with this, and what I've concluded is that you don't. Like, you can go, all right, I tend to snap at people in XYZ situation. Well, do I need to know why I do that, or can I just stop doing it and do this other thing instead? Because if I can just change my behavior without knowing the root cause of it, does the root cause matter anymore? So certain situations, yes, I think the why is important, depending, like if it's like relationships, family matters, like that stuff, childhood trauma, like there's some stuff in there. Depends on the topic. But I think for tactically a lot of leaders, it is as simple as starting to make different decisions and choosing to make better decisions as a person.
Yeah. I don't think that's unpopular at all. It might be in the world, but I think that's incredibly intelligent because I think people sometimes can get lost in the whys.
Yes.
And so they continue to reiterate the same behaviors because they're like, well, I got to figure out this root cause of this. And while they're continuing to do the same thing that is getting the same outcome. So I think it comes back to the beginning of the podcast of when you talked about growth, about how not all the time you need to grow in every single area. It's very similar to this is, at least what I'm hearing and what I've experienced in my own life is it's dependent. Sometimes that is look inward. Sometimes that is, hey, just change your behavior and don't worry about the inward why of it, which elicits a different outcome at the end of the day.
Correct. It's just different circumstances for different things.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. People just get really caught up in like yes, no, black, white, 100, 0 kind of mentality when all of this stuff is really to what degree? Mm-hmm. To what degree do I need to know the root cause of this? Mm-hmm. Is it like 10%? Because, maybe it's from that thing. All right, that's fine. Right? Or is it, oh my God, my mom hit me as a kid. And like, that's 100%. Like we need to unpack that.
Right.
Those are two entirely different things. So I just find that putting degrees on it is much more easy to wrap folks' head around than, you have to do it or you don't have to do it. Like that's very limited thinking.
Yeah. So what's the hardest leadership lesson you've had to learn?
Asking for help.
Ooh, viscerally. It's too close to home, but.
Yeah, I was working with a mentor I paid a lot of money for, and he was great, still my mentor to this day. And we were a handful of sessions in. He's like, you really have a lot of trouble asking for help, don't you? And I was like, oh. Didn't really realize that until you pointed it out. And then you start looking back on your life and you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, that's really accurate.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things where, to our previous chat here, I did not care about the why behind that. Mm-hmm. We talked about it, and that was fine. I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to change it. I'm going to work on something for, like, if it normally would have taken me a month to ask for help, I'm just going to make it take a week instead. Mm-hmm. Right? Or if I know that this thing is way out of my depth, I'm just going to ask way earlier. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I started doing that, I noticed an immediate difference in my life. And things got way easier because I was just asking for help sooner instead of trying to solve all of my shit myself. Mm. So like little things like that, I don't want to say little thing, it was a big thing, but that was the biggest thing that was pointed out to me probably in the past 5 years.
So what are some tactical things? Obviously you asked for help as tactical, but it's a pattern that was operating for a long time. And yes, there's awareness was shined on it, but that doesn't mean as soon as awareness is shined on it, you're 180 different. So what are some of those tactical or strategical things that you've done to help work through that?
For me, I, again, try to keep things overly simplistic. Yeah. So whenever I would start a new project, depending on what the project was, I would just set a reminder in my phone for like, hey, 1 week later, did you ask for help yet? If you didn't, go ask.
Good.
And that was literally it. Because then I have this constant tactile reminder of, you said you were going to change this thing. Did you change it? Yeah. Or are you just hitting like snooze on this reminder? Yeah. That's literally all I did, and that was extremely effective.
The one thing I have appreciated most about you is you are incredibly objective. And it is one of my favorite characteristics. Like, you are just incredibly objective, and I'm not in your brain, but to a point where it's a yes or no question. There's not as, and yes, from a leadership, there is some gray area, right? It's life. It's not a black and white type of thing, but you make things so simple as your terms and easy to implement that you almost have to be dumb to not implement it because it's so easy. And I don't mean it negatively.
That's the point, though.
But right, like and I think I've seen this in myself and just work with so many people is we can make it so freaking complicated, for a lack of a better way to say it, out of a way where it's just stopping us from doing the thing, or also for me that can it can feel so complicating, so then I won't take action because I feel like it's complicating. When really, no, I just don't want to do the thing, which is why I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I have this quote in my book that I am very happy that I wrote down at some point, but it was, perfection is just a stealthier version of procrastination.
Say that again. I like that.
Perfection is just a stealthier version of procrastination. And I think what you just described was a very perfect example of that. Where overcomplicating things is a shit ton of fun. Because you get to think about all these different angles and these different people and different ways you could do this and that. And then a month goes by and you're like, oh, shit, I haven't done anything yet. When really often the most simple thing you can do is, all right, there's all these ideas on the table. We could do these 50,000 things. Like, what are we doing tomorrow?
That's good.
Let's just do that, and then let's revisit. And that's really how I try to approach more or less everything is what's not the 10th step, what's the next step? And what is the simplest version of that step that we can do as soon as possible to make a difference? And then let's just keep doing that.
Yeah. And we have a lot of women, men listen to us too, but women specifically, whether they are in leadership positions or progressing their fitness journey. Like a lot of our audiences, they like to grow. Like that's the main undertone. And I want to share this and just echo what you said is even from a fitness lens, we can make it so complicated. What's a supplement? What's the right time of day to get sunlight into my eyes?
When should you have the protein?
Yeah, it's like, just eat your protein. That's all. And I'm saying this at myself when I first got started, is I got so much into the weeds of this when I needed to pull myself out and just look at the macro. Like, what are my 1 to 2 things that are moving my needle forward? And am I doing those things? And getting objective on if I am or if I'm not. And if I'm not, well, just do the things.
Yeah, I mean, even in the gym now, more or less my attitude is, well, how many sets and reps of whatever am I doing today? And it's just do it till it sucks. And then that's probably going to be enough for today. Maybe do like another set after that and you're good. Right? Just overly simplistic again. Yeah. Especially fitness, people overcomplicate the shit out of it.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think sometimes people, and it's not a rabbit hole to get down, but they try to sell the details. You know, like, oh, they have the magic sauce. No, you don't got the magic sauce.
They have the micronutrient timing secret formula, like whatever.
It drives me crazy. So I know a topic many people have challenges with is having those hard conversations. And yes, you said, tell me more. Like, you gave some really good models with that. But would you give any other recommendations or tips for people to have hard conversations?
Yeah, I got a whole presentation.
A whole book of them?
No, I don't have a whole book on it. There's a couple really simple things you can do to make hard conversations more doable. They're not easy because they're hard, obviously. Right. But what people tend to do when they think about hard conversations is they immediately leave the present. So they jump to the future and they jump to fear. So more or less saying some version of it's all going to go wrong when I have this conversation. So they left the present, which means they can't do anything, and now they're just scared. Now they have anxiety, and they're like, well, I'm not going to do anything. And you can't because you're not present anyway. So the way I teach people to have those, or to approach those hard conversations, is to actually write down what you're going to say. So I have them do this in 3 ways. The first one is they write down the worst possible scenario or outcome of that situation, of that conversation. And then I go, that would suck. That's terrible. Okay, now what is the best possible outcome of this conversation? Write that down above it. Right? They write that down. Oh my God, that's amazing. That'd be incredible if that happened. Great. Now what's in the middle? Because that's probably what's actually going to happen. And as you do that, you can see folks' anxiety come down, the stress comes down, because you're in the future a little bit again, but we're not just hanging out in fear. We have some optimism at the top, and then we have a dose of reality in the middle. So it just helps people ground themselves a little bit more. So I have them go through that exercise, literally write all of that out in as much detail as you can. And then the hard conversation itself, I have them just take the next step, which is scheduling the conversation. Because once you do that, it's really hard for you to back out. Right? So I will have people just send a text message or whatever that says, hey, so-and-so, do you have time on this day to chat? Just want to run something by you. And everybody goes, yeah, sure. Sounds great. Right? And that's it. Now it's on the schedule. And now you can't go, oh, just kidding. I don't want to run this thing by you anymore. Like, you're kind of stuck. So that's kind of part 2. And then part 3 is to get them out of that anxiety and fear even more. I have them schedule something for after the conversation.
Oh, I never heard this.
So part of the reason why the conversation feels just fucking terrifying is because you're more or less going into like a fight or flight, I'm going to die response. And the only thing you're thinking about is that conversation, and everything after that just feels like death. Which might sound really, really extreme, but that's kind of what's going on in your brain. So I have them schedule something awesome very soon after that. And then we use that as an anchor to remind ourselves that we're going to get past the conversation. So the way I do it is I make myself a pastrami sandwich.
That's your anchor?
Yeah. I
thought you were going to say this amazing golf trip at this thing.
No, because you need something that like you can do kind of simply and quickly in your life. I can't be like, I'm going to Colorado to snowboard every single week when I need to start a conversation. Home, but all right. So when I was presenting on this topic, I had everyone write down something obnoxiously simple that they could do at home that just brings them joy. And I really like sandwiches, and pastrami is my favorite. So my example that I've used and that I've literally used in my life is, well, I'm going to have this conversation, and who knows how it's going to really go. But after that, I get to have my sandwich, and that's great. So and that really just helps bring everything back to reality and reminds you that you're not going to die. So when I did this at a seminar, people were like, I'm going to eat a bunch of chocolate, or like, I'm going to have my favorite whiskey, or like, I'm going out with the girls, whatever it was. They just put something very uplifting after the conversation. It works really well.
I have never heard that before, but it makes so much sense in the psychology aspect of it.
Yeah, it works great. You should try it.
Yeah. Who's ready to have a hard conversation with me? I'm ready to put this on. That's fascinating. Yeah. Wow. And I know this is the theme today, but it's once again so simple and strategic. So what I'm hearing is you write down the kind of the high, the low, and potentially what's in the middle.
Yep.
Right? You base it in reality there, but you also kind of set yourself up for what the possibilities could be. So you're not in that, well, what if, and then your brain just starts going, right? Correct. Schedule the conversation, have the conversation, and then obviously at the end, reward yourself with a pastrami sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like pastrami, I don't know what to tell you. You should try it.
That's good. Can we go a little bit more tactically inside it? Yeah. So with regards to now being in that conversation, right? Yes, you have the pre-frame of what the high and the low could be in the middle. Any strategy within that conversation, any tactics that you would recommend for people?
Goes back to what we really talked about earlier, which is seek to understand. If you make a difficult conversation all about yourself, you're kind of missing the point, which is really, really hard for people to wrap their head around, because if they need to have a difficult conversation, it probably is about themselves. So when I say don't make it about yourself, like that's really confusing. But if the conversation is difficult, that means that you and someone else are probably in disagreement about something. Or what's even more common is the other person doesn't even know the way you feel about something. Happens all the time. So when you start that conversation, if there's a disagreement amongst two people, I would start with trying to heavily understand their side as much as possible, because that will then usually be reflected back to you. Because if I spend 10 minutes trying to figure out what's going on with you, it's only natural that you're like, well, okay, so like how do you feel about it? Right? If I jump into a conversation and I never seek to understand, the other person is never going to mirror that. So figure out what's going on with the other person first, if the situation like allows for it. Then be like, okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Ask them a bunch of follow-up questions, etc. All right, can I share with you my perspective on how I feel about this? And then as you're doing that, number one mistake people make is they use the word you while they're in the middle of that conversation. Again, assuming this is some sort of disagreement, you then do need to make it all about yourself and just expressing how whatever happened made you feel in that scenario, because no one can say that is not true. Right? That's very different than if I'm speaking in absolutes and saying, well, like, let's pretend it's a husband and wife fighting. Well, you never do the dishes, right? That's the chances of that being statistically true are like 0. So now you've just managed to put a wall up. Someone's going to get defensive. Very different than I feel like I'm the only one that only does the dishes, and it makes me feel like I'm not being supported. Those are two entirely different sentences about two entirely different people. So understand them first as best as you can, and then express how you feel about yourself and what's going on with you, not how you feel about the other person. Do that.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, way easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
It's really hard.
Because also what I'm hearing in that is you have to be incredibly aware about what your emotions are about that.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah.
A lot of journaling, a lot of writing things down.
Now, because then that peels the onion a little bit deeper to say that's a prerequisite is you have to understand your own emotions, why, what's going on internally. And I'll just be very transparent that I'm not a very reactive person by any means. I'm pretty easygoing. Yeah. But to a fault of I really have not asked myself, Kels, how are you feeling? You're seeing Leslie after this?
Yeah.
She was the first person that really challenged me in this way. And if you don't know Leslie, she's a great human. But she asked me, like, Kels, like, how are you doing? Yeah. And what's my response? Oh, I'm good, right? I'm fine.
Oh, immediate flag.
Right.
Immediate red
not
flag.
Out of even me trying to not be open and honest with her. It was out of me not even asking myself how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And not just thinking, oh, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I got to get these things done. I'm fine. Kels, genuinely, how are you doing? And it's not that you have to take a negative look at it, but you take an honest look at it. And when Trav, this might not seem big to you, but this was so big for me, and even is continually, because I can just be I'll figure it out type of girl, a figure it out mentality. But that didn't serve me in really understanding how I think about certain things, or like, what are my emotions with regards to this? Mm-hmm. Well, not just how am I feeling good? No, because, well, I'm actually kind of feeling a little bit tired today. Or like just being honest with myself about those things. And so what would you say for that person, or what are some things they can do to even peel the onion back a little bit deeper to understand how they're feeling about a situation that is arising some emotion within them?
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I think it starts with just giving yourself the space to do so.
Yeah.
Which means sit in a chair and stare at a wall.
Yeah.
Right? Go for a walk.
Yeah.
Most people don't, I don't want to say they don't have the time. Most people don't schedule the time to actually figure out how they feel about anything, because everything's back to back to back to back to back in everybody's lives, and everybody's busy, go. Yeah. Like, I try to make sure that in my schedule every single week, there's just a slot that more or less says do nothing. Mm-hmm. I will just sit at my desk and stare at a wall. I'll just, like, look out the window. Like, sometimes my fiance will walk up and she'll be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just looking outside.
I love that's the objective trap.
Right? I'm just literally standing there looking outside doing nothing, because that's when your brain actually starts to think about what's happened that day or that week, or how you're feeling, or what's going on. Like, you need the space to do it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, all of that stuff just gets bottled up, pushed down, and then it explodes on other people. Mm-hmm. So give yourself literally a space to do it, and, grab a pen and paper and just write some stuff down. Just, how am I feeling? Yeah, but how am I really feeling? But, well, how am I actually feeling, though? Mm-hmm. You just keep asking yourself that for 5-10 minutes and just write down what comes up. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
That simple practice has been game changer for me.
Yeah, and I can hear Leslie being like, but how are you?
Yeah, and in that tone, too. And I'm like, Les, all right. What I'm gathering from so much of this so far is seek to understand.
Yep.
Okay. And personally, what I'm gathering, because it's been so integral in my life, is genuinely being honest with yourself and asking yourself, how are you doing, or what do you think about the situation, that then you can go into your framework to present to that person to say, yeah, this is how it makes me feel, or like this is how I'm being able to own that. Because what you're not aware of, you can't own at the end of the day.
And I think people get stuck with this idea that vulnerability, even with themselves, is a weakness.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting to not like the word vulnerable. It's just getting a little weird. It's just like everywhere, and everything's like, be vulnerable. It's like, well, what does that mean, though? And I saw something the other day that I really, really enjoyed, and it was swapping that out with being available.
Never heard that yet.
Which I think is much more applicable. So when your friend's going through a hard time, like, being available. When I'm going through a hard time with myself, like, letting myself be available emotionally to another person. and allowing myself to go experience whatever emotions I'm going to feel. I think that's a better way to phrase be vulnerable without it sounding like a weakness, which too many people associate it with anyway.
Yeah, very much so.
But the strongest people that you're ever going to meet are the most available, aka vulnerable, and will willingly share how they're actually feeling, because that garners them more respect and understanding from other people.
And to tie that, they're becoming better leaders.
And they're becoming better leaders. Like, we used to have a rule on our team meetings where we would start the meeting with, how are you doing? You can't say good or great.
I remember that.
Like, you have to actually tell us how you're doing. You can't just say, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. It's like, that doesn't, no, you're not. You're something else besides those things.
Yeah.
So I still do that with people to this day. I'll go, how you doing? Even people at the airport today, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, well, I'm having a great day so far. I'm traveling, doing this. How are you? And they go, good. I'm like, well, what does that mean? What do you mean you're good? Like,
yeah.
So are you tired? Like, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
Right? It's just Western culture. People just say, I'm good.
Yeah. Man. Okay, I could talk to you about this stuff forever, and I feel like I want to rabbit hole many different ways, but I want to be respectful here. However, before we wrap up, is there anything else from a leadership standpoint, or also just things that you wrote within the book or learned from the book that you feel very compelled to share?
The number one most quoted line from the book, I think, is really powerful and is one of the simplest tools you can use to actually kind of make a change in your life. And the quote is, what you're not changing, you're choosing. People always send me that quote, and I heard it from somebody else, so I'm not going to pretend like I wrote it. My mentor told me, somebody told him, etc. But I think it just gives people a lot of power to understand that you don't have to be a victim of your own circumstance from a leadership standpoint. But if you are in a bad relationship or you hate your job, etc., if you're not doing anything about it, then you're actively choosing that situation, no matter what excuse you come up with. And I think that's a really, really hard pill to swallow for a majority of people, to say, well, I'm in a toxic relationship, but it's not my fault. It's like, well, but it is, though. Whether you like it or not, everything in your life is your fault. And people also really don't like that idea. But because it sounds like it would be a huge burden, but when you realize everything is your fault, it is a massive relief. And it's like the weight of the world comes off your shoulders, not that it's being added. Because you're like, oh, I can just make reality as I see fit. I can just change things and do whatever I want, and it's going to be great. As opposed to, I'm trapped and I'm stuck and poor me. So I think if you're going to take anything out of this, it's what you're not changing, you're choosing.
Yeah. No longer playing the victim card. And I heard very similar quote to that. Not the first one. I love the first quote. But it might not be your fault, meaning you're the cause of it, but it's your responsibility, right? And I love that, because where you take responsibility, there's freedom on the other side. And it just ties so well with not just your book, but from what I'm hearing, the overall theme is like, you're trying to make better people. That's at the end of the day, to simplify it in your terms, you're just trying to help people get better and be able to just improve their interactions with people and just become better humans.
Yeah, and do that in the most simplistic way possible, where you could read the book or follow me and be like, oh, he said that thing, and like, I can go do that today. I can do that in like 5 minutes from now. Look at that, go. Yeah. As opposed to, I need to go to a seminar, or I need to watch a YouTube video, like, or all these other things. It's like, no, it should be more accessible to everyone, because if everyone learned better leadership skills, literally the whole planet improves.
Gets better.
Everyone's lives get better. So that's kind of the mission that I'm on, and trying to figure out how to solve that.
You're doing a good job of it.
Yeah.
So for people, obviously we're going to put the link below, but I want to reiterate the title and where they can find it.
Yep.
And then also your links that we can send people to.
Yep. So the book is How to Suck as a Leader, the top 15 mistakes leaders make, how to fix them. It's on Amazon. There's Kindle, paperback, hardcover, audio, all the good stuff.
And you've crushed it, by the way, on sales so far.
Yep. Sales are going great. So moved already over at least 1,300 books in like 4-ish months, which for self-publishing is a really, really big deal. Inside every book, there's also a free workbook.
Nice.
I don't know if you know that or not, but it's awesome. So I wrote another book to go with this book You can get that for free. It's a download. There's also one available, like a paper version if you like putting pen and paper.
Nice.
That's on Amazon. You'll find that as well. But you can follow me on Instagram at Trav Dalrymple. Put it in the show notes because no one can spell my name.
I couldn't even say it, so that's good.
And then I also have a newsletter called Don't Say This, Say That.
I like that.
Where I take really dumb shit that leaders say, and I say, I wouldn't say it like this. I would say it like that.
Simple.
Really simple, like language swapping mechanisms.
Yeah.
It's less than 60 seconds to read, and I send it once a week right now. And that is available on my email list.
Well, when you make it big here, just remember this. Come in for Seek the Edge.
I will.
This is where the origins are. No, that's great. Overall, just Trav, I appreciate you doing the work that you are. And I told you this off air, but I was just so proud of you for just pursuing just the message that is in your heart that you feel like needs to be out there, and having the courage for that. Because I know you're objective, Trav, and you're going off the beaten path. But still, it takes courage, and I just am really proud of you for that. And selfishly, I'm going to get a lot of value from your book and your information, and I'm excited just to glean all the things that you've learned up until this point.
Yeah, well, it's been great to be here, and this was a lovely conversation.
Yeah, after my 5 missed text messages and issues, but I'm grateful to have you. So everybody, thank you for popping on. What I love to challenge people that listen to this is, you message Trav one thing that really hit home, or post it on your story. When you get his book, post it, tag Travis, and it is not a matter of if, but when you get so much value from the book and also this podcast and just what you put on social. I'm like, wow, that was easy. And it's also entertaining too. So I just appreciate you doing the work, and everybody, thank you for taking a moment to listen, and go ahead and shoot Trav a message, and I'll see you soon. Bye guys.
Bye.